Okay. All right. Well, welcome everyone. I'm so happy to see your friendly faces. So thank you so much for joining us for another fun Chefs for Chefs event today. Feel free to introduce yourselves if you haven't already and put in the chat where you're joining us from. And since we were talking about the weather getting warmer outside, feel free to share what foods you love to grow or cook at home as the temperatures are rising. So you can use the chat box if you have any comments or questions, and whether you're cooking along or just sitting back and watching this like a cooking show, just go ahead and raise your hand or unmute yourself if you feel like doing so at any time today. So let me first introduce myself to those of you who don't already know me. I am Sylvia Ng, and I am a culinary nutritionist and dietitian. And I created Chefs for Chefs as my passion project. As most of you might already know, the CHEFS stands for Charities Helping Everyone for Seva, or Selfless service. So I'm pairing it with my talented chef friends to offer virtual cooking classes to all of you so that we can raise money and raise awareness for different charities and organizations. So I'm so excited to introduce you all to our guest chef for today. And let me just say that I am so honored and so grateful to welcome Chef Golda Ewalt. I was lucky enough to have Golda as my mentor and dietetic internship director 10 years ago now. Can you believe it? And she's always, it really is. And you've always been a real inspiration to me. Just, you know, how amazing you juggle everything in your life and you do it so well. And of course, how incredibly caring you are with everybody who's fortunate enough to meet you. So let me introduce Golda. She is a chef and registered dietitian nutritionist who is a big proponent of easy to prepare foods made with fresh ingredients to encourage people to live a healthy lifestyle. She is the director of food and nutrition services at OSF Healthcare St. Francis Medical Center in Peoria, Illinois, which is where we first met. And she also teaches culinary nutrition at Illinois Central College Culinary Institute. Golda is a Western Illinois University graduate and has a master's degree in health services administration. She's an active member of the Illinois Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, serving as a past president and media representative for the organization. Golda has been recognized for her professional abilities, receiving awards for Young Dietitian of the Year, 40 Leaders Under 40, and Chef of the Year from the Heart of Illinois Professional Chef Association, where she was also a past president. In 2017, she became a certified executive chef from the American Culinary Association, and she enjoys cooking, gardening, volunteering at the Peoria Riverfront Farmers Market, and promoting the local food scene. So everyone, let's give a big warm welcome to Chef Golda Ewalt and hear from her what she'll be cooking today and which cause she is supporting.
Well, welcome, and it's so good to see you and catch up with you, Sylvia, and know that you're doing so well in Boulder and making a difference in that community. So I'm really excited to be here. And when you contacted me to come on and do a class with you, I really knew I wanted to do something on fermentation. Over the last couple of years, it's really been an area of the culinary world that I've gotten interested in. And today I'm going to take you on a little journey on how to make kimchi. And then I will show you 2 recipes on how you can use kimchi. One is with a soba noodle salad, and the other one is a kimchi pancake. Both very, very delicious recipes. And with kimchi, it's a 2-step brining process. And you have to brine the Napa cabbage for about 5 to 6 hours. So before I get started with anything else, I need to drain the Napa cabbage. It's been in the brine, since about noon today here, so about 6 hours. And when you get into fermentation, you always want to make sure that you have nice and clean hands. So I'm going to wash my hands to start with.
Great. And while you're doing that, I'll actually put the link to your handout and your recipes in the chat so people can kind of follow along and, you know, read up all on the good tips and fermentation that you have. And I'll email that out to people too.
Absolutely. All right. So I'm going to show you what this looks like. So I've had in here, in this Cambro, I have 2 large Napa cabbages, and I cut them in half, and they've been in the brine solution. And the brine is 1 gallon of water to a cup of sea salt, okay? So I'm just gonna take those out and put them into a colander and let those strain while we talk a little bit more about fermentation. Now, one of the things I did when I was preparing the Napa cabbage to make kimchi is that I took some of the large outer leaves off. You can see here, and kept them in the brine. And I'm just going to move those over also to drain. But these are what's called in the fermentation process, they're called the first follower. So when we go ahead to let this ferment, this will be the first follower, and then we have a second follower that I will show you. So once again, the brine solution was 1 gallon of water to 1 cup of sea salt. Make sure you're not using iodized salt. You do not want to use iodized salt at all. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and just let that drain. And I wanted to tell you about some other fermentation projects that I've done. And fermentation is really easy to do. Things like kombucha, kefir is really easy to make. Sauerkraut, it's pretty much very similar to making the kimchi. Another one that I've made is vinegars, and I've done apple cider and pear vinegar. And I was really excited about this because I have, in this one, I just have a little bit left. I'm going to bring it over here, and you can see that it has the mother in there that's formed. And listen closely, I'm going to take the top of it off. And you should hear a little bit of a gas release. So let's see if I can do this for you. I heard it. I don't know if you did or not. There was some gas, there was some release. And what that is it's still fermenting, right? And it's a release of carbon dioxide. And that the carbon dioxide is a byproduct of the fermentation process. Vinegars are really pretty easy to make, and it goes through different stages. There's one stage and it smells like acetone, which is like fingernail polish remover. And I would be smelling the vinegar and smelling it, and you know, gosh, yes, one day I woke up and it smelled just like fingernail polish remover. It smelled like that for a while, and then it moved on to the next stage. So vinegar is really cool to make. And then I really wanted to study how to make miso. And miso is also somewhat simple to make. It takes a minimum of 8 weeks to ferment. So it's a little bit longer fermentation time. And you can make miso out of a lot of different types of beans. You can use soybeans. I will tell you, this was the first time I had cooked dried soybeans, and it really took about 4 hours to cook them. So it takes a little bit longer, but you could use garbanzo beans, black beans as well. And besides the cooked beans, you put salt in with it. And then the other ingredient, which was really new to me that I got to work with, is called Koji. And you can have different types of Koji. This one is a sweet miso Koji. And Koji is made by putting a culinary mold onto cooked rice, and it's in a temperature controlled environment, and that culinary mold then encases that cooked rice, and then it's dried, and then you have your Koji that you can use. And so you mix this Koji just as it is, dried rice, then inoculated with the culinary mold, the beans and the salt, and you smash it up so it's like a chunky mashed potato, and you put it into a crock and let it sit for about 8 weeks or longer. And what happens is you have this wonderful miso develop. One of the neat things that happens is while the miso is fermenting, there is a liquid that comes to the top, and it's tamarind. Not that, what am I thinking of? Sylvia, can you help me with that?
I'm not sure actually what that is called.
I'll have to look that up, but it's a liquid, and it's like kind of like a soy sauce.
Tamari?
liquid that rises to the top, and it's really, really incredible.
Is it tamari?
So, tamari, yes, thank you.
Yes.
Tamari rises up, and it's just such an incredibly flavorful, rich umami bomb sauce, and you can use that, or you can mix it back into the miso. I wish you could smell this, but this is my miso paste, the black bean miso paste, and it's really wonderful. And I've had this probably well over a year, and you keep it in the refrigerator, and it really never, ever, ever will go bad. And it's something that I would, really encourage people that are into fermentation, maybe looking for something different to make, to try that out. So there's many different things you can do. I like fermentation because you take something that is, beans or vegetables, and you turn it into something that's totally different. And it just takes usually a certain environment, and that environment is anaerobic without any oxygen. And in that situation, it allows these bacteria to do their thing and to change the vegetables or the food into a fermented item. So I just kind of wanted to start with that, and also just show you that I had picked these jars up like at a local hardware store, and I really like to store my fermented foods like kimchi or sauerkraut in these, and it just stores really well. So I also want to show that. It has a little rubber ring on the top, so that works out really well. Okay, so the other thing with fermented foods, many fermented foods are very rich in probiotics. And probiotics, we're hearing so much about probiotics, so many health benefits from probiotics. And there's literally millions, if not billions, of these good bacteria in these foods, like yogurt, kombucha, kefir. These are really good foods to have in the diet. And keep in mind that it's really immune boosting foods. It can help fight certain types of cancer. It's good for other bowel issues like diarrhea, IBS, and one of the take-home messages. It's not just kind of like it's good for everything, but there's certain strains of probiotics that would help with different health issues. And I would encourage you to talk to your doctor, do some research, but there's very specific strains that you would want to take. Make sure that you're getting in your food, or there's also tablets that a person can take that can help with some of those things. So I think we're going to continue to hear more about probiotics as we move forward. So I wanted to give you a little bit about that. In terms of kind of a checklist with fermentation, you want to make sure that everything is clean that you're working with. It doesn't have to be like 100%, bleached and sanitary, but clean. Wash the surfaces with good soap and water, your hands, and all of that. And there's bacteria everywhere. We have bacteria on our body, bacteria under our armpits. That's why you have smelly armpits. It's that bacteria. So we have bacteria everywhere. And when you put the food, it's on the vegetables, the fruits. So when you put it into that anaerobic bacteria, it's the good bacteria that we have that survive. And the bad bacteria, there's definitely bad bacteria, those die off. They can't survive in that anaerobic and that pH and that environment. And you want to remember that there's the brine. I'm going to show you this, but you want everything submerged. If there's little vegetables or particles of food that are above that brine, that's probably going to mold. And if it does, you just kind of scrape that off and keep going. If it smells bad or it's slimy, you don't want to eat it. I had ferment, I think it was sauerkraut, and it didn't take. And when you come into your house, you'll know. It smells. It's terrible. But
worse than your underarms?
When you make sauerkraut or kimchi, it really does not have an odor until you kind of like bring that food, the fermented food, up out of that brine. And a couple other things, you want to have a good temperature so the ferment takes. You don't want it too hot, like you don't want to keep your fermented crock, in like 90-degree temperature. It's going to go too fast, and it's not going to have that flavor that you want. Also, if it's too cold, if you keep your ferment at 60 degrees, it's too cold to get that bacteria eating and munching on those carbohydrates in the food. So you want to keep it about 75 degrees. Room temperature is good. I typically just put my crock in the basement, and that's a really good temperature for it. And the other thing I wanted to say is the probiotic, that we're developing in these foods that we're fermenting. It is temperature sensitive. There's many, many types of probiotic that don't like to live above 150 and 120 degrees. So when you think about sauerkraut that comes in a can, the probiotics that were in there have been killed through the canning process versus, a fresh sauerkraut where you keep it in the refrigerator, or kimchi. So anything that might have had a probiotic, but it was treated with heat, many times those probiotics are going to be no longer there. So I just wanted to keep that in mind. Or if you cook it, if you have a probiotic rich food and you cook it, you're going to kill off most of those beneficial probiotics. Okay. All right. I'm just going to take this tray and put it in the other room, and I'll be right back.
Yeah, and I'll just add something to what Golda was saying in terms of all of that healthy bacteria in our gut. Somewhere they estimate around 70 to 80% of our immune system, comes from our digestive system, and having that healthy bacteria to help us, stay healthy and make sure that we're able to fight off all of that bad bacteria and viruses that would otherwise make us sick. So yeah, probiotics, prebiotics, they're all the rage these days. So thank you for, making something that's fermented, because I know a lot of people out there these days might be a little bit cautious or a little bit nervous about trying something with fermented foods because they're not sure if they're going to do it right, if it's going to cause end up making them sick if they don't do it right. So thanks, Golda, for doing this kind of recipe.
And you'll know, honestly, you'll smell it. It's totally it's going to smell terrible or taste or look bad. So I think that you would really know. Okay. The other thing is cost, right? So you go to the store and you try and you want to buy some kimchi. I just got back from vacation. We were out in Utah. I saw kimchi for a small little container. It was like $10.99. I thought, oh wow, it was really interesting. I was looking at that because I knew I was doing this class. Kombucha is another one. Here in Peoria, Illinois, a brand name bottle of kombucha is like $3.29. And, to make kombucha, it's sugar, water, tea, and a little back slopping of your previous kombucha that you made. So you can really, add these probiotics to your diet very inexpensively by making some of these on your own. So, all right, so let's get back into our kimchi here. So I wanted to show you these gloves, these pink gloves. And there is a festival in Korea where kimchi comes from, and it is called Kimjang. And during the festival, which is in the fall, they celebrate the cabbage harvest, right? And so when you make kimchi, you're going to see that it's like deep red. And so the people that come together to these festivals, they all wear these pink gloves. And if you do have the handout, I did include a picture of the people at the festival making the kimchi with the gloves on. So I'm going to wear my pink gloves today. Okay.
I think they look fabulous, Golda.
Aren't they great? Okay, so what I have here, I have some daikon radish, and I just want to show this to you. It's pretty huge, right? Look at this. This is one daikon radish, and I was gonna say too that these are easy to grow. It's a fall vegetable here in central Illinois. And my father happens to grow daikon radish, and I had the best time in the fall. He grew these, and we went to his garden and we picked the daikon together, and then we went back to his house and we made kimchi together. And it was really a special time to do that, because he loves his garden, and he loves the daikon radish. So you can find these at most Asian markets and sometimes grocery stores, at least here in central Illinois. So I picked out the biggest one because I thought it was really kind of funny looking. So you got that. And also with kimchi, it represents the Korean culture. And I wanted just to kind of go over that too. There's 5 colors. There's white, red, green, yellow, and brown. And the white of the daikon radish, that represents the sky. Red represents fire. Green represents the earth. Brown represents the wind, and yellow represents the rain. So I thought that was kind of interesting to learn about that as well. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I've got my carrots that I'm gonna put into a large bowl. I've got my shredded daikon. I've got a lot of garlic and a lot of ginger that I've minced, and that's gonna go in to a large mixing bowl, okay? Now, there's a special pepper that, that you put in here, and it is called gochugaru, if I'm saying that right. If anybody can help me with the pronunciation, that would be great. But it is a dried red pepper that's just crushed up, and you want to make sure you buy the one that doesn't have any other preservatives added or salt added. And you put in quite a bit. It's about a half a cup that I'm going to sprinkle into that, okay? And what I did, just so that everybody knows, I just use like a little grater to grate up the carrot and the daikon, okay? So all that's going to go in. And the last thing that I'm going to put in there is some green onion. Okay, I've got 3 green onion that I'm just going to slice and put in. So this is like a dry brine process, and the Napa cabbage, that was a wet brine step. And this recipe that I selected, I really like it because it is vegan. There's many other kimchi recipes that use like shrimp, even some have oysters that they put in with it, different like a broth, an animal-based broth. So I like this one because it is vegan, and I think it's a really good recipe. I've used it many times. So the green onion is going to go in. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those vegetables and mix it in with that red pepper powder. And you're going to be able to see that that color is going to be nice and beautiful, a beautiful red color. Okay, so that's all incorporated. And Bob, you got to come say hi. Everybody's asking about you.
Yay, and the dog, bring the dog too. Hi, Bob. Bob Hinge.
Okay. So now I'm going to go back to the cabbage. Okay, and this is the Napa cabbage. It's been draining. And what I want to do is I want to chop it up and add it to the vegetables, but keep those first follower leaves. Okay, so the first follower leaves I had, I'm just going to take those and set those off to the side, because those are going to help us keep everything submerged. Okay, now what happens is during this soak, the salty brine, the salt is going to move into the cells of Napa cabbage and turn the Napa cabbage into a salty tasting. Okay.
And Golda, correct me if I'm wrong, but the salt also plays a really important part about controlling the bacterial growth, I think, too, because you can't have it
Absolutely.
growing too much, but also you need enough for the process to kind of complete itself. So you might think it's a lot of salt at first, but it is a necessary thing when you're doing fermentation.
You have to have the salt. That's what helps it helps to create that environment where those good bacteria thrive and the bad bacteria don't like it and they'll die off. So absolutely. And if you've never made sauerkraut, you might think like, oh, there's some like brine that you put in with it. It's just 2 ingredients. It's cabbage and salt. And you massage that cabbage with that salt and it pulls the water out of the cells to create its own brine to submerge it in. Now, this is more of a longer cured or fermented type kimchi. There's kimchis that are quick kimchis that you actually just make and eat right then or there or the next day or within in a couple days. So this is one that it has a little bit longer fermentation time. Typically with this, I'm gonna leave it about 7 days. I don't think I've ever had a kimchi where I didn't leave it ferment at least for 7 days. So you've got quick kimchis and longer fermented kimchis. And there's probably so many kimchi recipes. Families have their own recipes that they like. There's hundreds and hundreds of kimchi recipes. Okay.
I think sometimes people bury it in the ground for like months at a time. I hear too, right? They just leave it.
And the pot then, it's called an angis pot, and it's porous, so it's going to interact with the earth, and that's where you get that terroir. I love the terroir of wine, the terroir of chocolate, the terroir of coffee, and it adds its own flavor to the kimchi. So yes, it is sometimes buried. Yes. Okay, so we have the napa cabbage in here, and what I'm going to do is just mix this all up together. Pressing on that cabbage as we go along. And I saved some of the brine. So if we needed to add a little bit of brine to the kimchi when it goes in the pot, we can do that.
Golda, I don't know if I ever told you, but I've only ever made kimchi once, and it was last year, and it was for a homework assignment for my culinary nutrition homework. Yes. And I didn't have any of that gochugaru stuff, so I used red pepper flakes, and I know you mentioned that in your recipe as well. And it was so spicy, Golda, I couldn't even eat it. I had to give it away to somebody else who could take the heat. And the little part that I saved, I actually rinsed under a little bit of water because it was so spicy. And I knew it was, I know kimchi is spicy, but I was like, wow, I was like knocked off of my feet.
Well, and today with being able to get ingredients through the mail, it's things like when you can't find an ingredient like that, it makes it really easy to be able to, order it online.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Okay. So this is looking really good. Okay. And it looks great with my pink gloves as well. It looks really good. Okay. So what I want to show you next is my crock that I ferment in. And this is a crock from Ohio. And if you look at the references, you'll see where I purchased it, okay? This is a 2-gallon crock, and it has a lid on it. And I love this crock. It's a great size. And it comes with these. And these are the weights, or the second followers. So these weights are going to go on top. It's going to push it all down and keep it submerged, okay, underneath that brine. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put into the crock, I'm going to put the cabbage in there. And as you go, you want to push it down, okay?
I think I've only ever seen one of those crocks to make sauerkraut before, and we were making it on a farm or something like that. So that's all they had. They just had this crock, and it looked exactly like that. So I guess you could use it for kimchi. You can use it for sauerkraut.
It works great. Absolutely. Okay. So, and I'm pushing it down. And you're going to see the moisture coming out. I'm going to add a little bit of brine. To that. Push it down.
Really get a good workout there, Golda.
I know. It smells so good too. And what I want people to know too, it's relatively easy to make. You just need some time. And this is great to make, especially now as the produce is coming in season. It's farmers markets. This is a great way to preserve foods for the winter. So okay, so this is looking good. Now I'm going to go back to the first followers, remember, that we saved, and I'm going to lay them on the top, and you want to cover your kimchi, and this is going to help to keep all of the ingredients submerged. Okay, cut that. I wanted to tell you, I have some references on the last page of the handout. And there's a book on kimchi that I really, the Kimchi Cookbook, that's awesome. And then there's Sandor Katz, The Art of Fermentation. That is another one that I highly recommend. He is, if I ever get to hear him speak, I would absolutely love it. He is, one of the true experts of fermentation here in the United States. And Kirsten Shockey, she has a lot of different cookbooks on fermentation, and those are all just really, really good references. Okay, so now I'm pushing, I put on my second follower, and I'm pushing down on this, and I can see the brine coming up. So you want to have those leaves submerged, okay? And I'll see. Just really push it down, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back, and I'm going to just like take a wet paper towel, and I'm going to wipe off those the second followers, kind of wipe that out, and really I'm going to put the top on, put it in the basement, and let this sit for 7 days, and then give it a little taste. Typically it's good. And then if not, if I want to maybe a little bit more funk to it, let it sit for a few more days, and then I'm going to put it into those glass jars into the refrigerator. Now it's going to continue to ferment, but it slows way down in the cold temperatures of the refrigerator. Okay. So that is our kimchi demonstration. Sylvia, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I will say that, the one time that I did make it, I didn't have one of these crocks. So I just ended up putting it directly into those glass jars. And it's kind of cool because then you can actually see all the bubbles and stuff form. So if you don't have one of these crocks lying around, maybe you try it with one of those large glass jars. And you might every now and again have to release all of the gases that'll build up. Yeah, so I just wanted to add that tip in there too, because I don't have one of those crocks, but that would be cool to have.
Yeah. And they have crocks that are like huge that you could put gallons and gallons and gallons in. So, okay, so that's looking good. I'm gonna put that down here as well.
Hey, your dog isn't gonna lick that big bowl of on the floor, is it? You might be surprised how spicy it is.
She'll be in for a real shock, right?
Yeah.
A real shock. Okay. So that's a little bit about how to make kimchi. Don't be shy. Just jump in, read about it, read some articles, do some research, but it's really easy, easy to make. I wouldn't say that if I didn't truly believe it. Okay. This.
And with fermentation, I mean, people don't really think of things like, your bread goes through a very similar process. Even chocolate, people don't realize that also goes through a fermentation process. When you pick the pods off the trees, you take out all the seeds, and those actually get fermented too. So, we're eating a lot more fermented foods than we realize because it's a very natural process. It's not some science experiment. I mean, you could see it that way, but fermentation is actually a very natural thing for foods to go through. And it's beneficial too.
And it was things like fermented foods, cured foods that really led to world exploration. Think of like dried fish, cured fish.
Mm-hmm.
Civilizations that lived along the ocean. Once they figured out how to do that, they could leave where they were at and go explore more. The whole, the culinary history I just love, but it's things like fermentation that really help to advance society. So, okay. So the next one, if you guys want to take out the recipe, it's a kimchi soba noodle salad. The kimchi's not cooked in this, so you're getting all of those really great probiotics in this. So it's really good. And it's funny, it calls for red cabbage. Well, current times, sometimes they don't have ingredients available, even something like you think like red cabbage. So I went to 2 different grocery stores here in Peoria, and both were out of red cabbage. So I just purchased red pepper. I was thinking about what else you could add. I thought edamame would be good. You could also use green cabbage. So, part of being a chef, somebody that likes to cook, is kind of making do when you can't find specific ingredients. So, okay. So the soba noodle salad, I'm actually using store-bought kimchi because my kimchi wasn't, it's got to sit for 7 days. So this was one that I found, and this one does have the fish in it. So it has salted shrimp in it. So if people are vegetarian or vegan, you do need to look at the labels with your kimchi to make sure it doesn't have that added. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is make the dressing for the recipe, okay? And the dressing, it's got some honey in it. It's got about a tablespoon of honey that I'm going to put in. Okay. And you can use agave nectar. You can use other sugars like coconut sugar if that's what you have. That's not going to be a problem. And it's going to call for about 3 tablespoons of rice wine vinegar. Okay, and about 2 tablespoons of sesame oil. Okay, and it also has a like a Korean red pepper paste. And this is, the name of this is called Gucci Gong. And I have this huge container of it. Typically it comes in like a kind of a red box like this. And you can find this at, Asian grocery stores, international markets, or maybe even a large supermarket in your area. So this is about 3 tablespoons that I'm going to add to this. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and put in the garlic as well. I'm going to go ahead and add that. And it calls for some kimchi juice, about a 1/4 cup of the juice from the kimchi. Okay. And I'm just going to go ahead and add that from the jar. Okay. And I'm going to whip that up. In this recipe, it has soba noodles. And soba noodles are like a Japanese noodle, typically made with buckwheat flour. And you might know that buckwheat flour is gluten-free, but oftentimes with the soba noodles, it's not just the buckwheat flour, it does have wheat flour. So soba noodles would not be gluten-free in most situations, okay? So we have the dressing made. I'm gonna go ahead and add in those cooked soba noodles to that. And I wanted to say, in my kitchen at home, when I have on latex gloves, and I do use latex gloves at home because I can mix things with my hands. I can plate with my hands. So I'm not wearing latex gloves just because I'm doing some demo, but I actually do use them in my house. How about you guys? Sylvia, do you use gloves at home at all?
I don't often. It depends on what I'm making. If I'm gonna slice something that's spicy, like a really spicy pepper or something, for sure. If I'm gonna get really messy, I got to make sure I don't have any cuts on my hand or something. Yeah.
So,
but I just wanted to say, if you wanted a gluten-free option, you could probably, I don't know if you've tried those seaweed noodles before. They're like kind of like glassy looking noodles. But they're made entirely out of seaweed and they are gluten-free. So that would be a great alternative for people who are looking for that option.
And rice noodles as well.
Yeah,
definitely. There's noodles that are rice. So we got our noodles in, and then this is the cucumber, the carrot, and the substitute, the red pepper for the red cabbage, since I didn't have that. And the last ingredient I'm going to put in here is about a cup of chopped kimchi. I'm gonna go ahead and pull that out. Looks good. Okay, I think my knife is in the other room. Let me go get my knife.
I would probably totally, sear some tofu or something to go with this dish. I feel like that would be a nice addition to this too, or maybe some cooked mushrooms or shiitake mushrooms or something to throw in there too. I think that would, put another flavor in there. Yeah.
That would be really good. Okay. So there is our chopped kimchi. I'm just going to toss this together. But this is, we eat so much with our eyes, right? And this is just such a beautiful, colorful recipe. And I think I'm going to go ahead and plate this up now, just to kind of show you a few different ideas and garnishes that I had for this. Okay. And everybody, this is going to be really good. You know that it's going to be absolutely delicious. So go ahead.
Oh, the dog makes an appearance.
That's back there now.
Is she the sous chef today? Is that what's going on?
She's the sous chef. Okay, so what for my plating, I thought it would be really beautiful in this bowl that I have. And on the inside, there's a little, like a little goldfish, so that's kind of cool. And I'm just gonna mound some of that salad up. And I wanna make sure that I've got all the ingredients showing. So you've got the carrot and the kimchi, noodles, carrot, all of the wonderful little ingredients we have in there that's really healthy, okay? And for garnishes, what I have some sesame seeds. These are the toasted sesame seeds that I'm gonna put in there. And I'm gonna really garnish this up. I got some black sesame seeds to put on. I have some peanuts. That's gonna give it a nice, great crunch. And this was something I found at the Asian market, and it's called crispy chili snack. And these are dried peppers that have some sesame seeds added to them. And I thought that would be kind of a fun garnish to put on there as well.
Gives a little bit of a crunch too.
Yep, and then this is crispy, spicy chili crisp. And I thought just a little drizzle of that would be delicious to put on the top around the bowl. And the last garnish I had to put on was a little bit of cilantro on the top. And the other thing I thought would be good would be some wasabi peas, but I'll leave those off, but I thought those would be good. And then here is the dish.
Yum. That looks beautiful, dude.
Yeah. So I will ask you, Sylvia, I know that I've gone a little bit over time. Do you want me to keep going?
Sure.
Or what would you want me to keep going? Okay.
Sure, I think it'll be awesome.
I've got one more recipe to show you. I'll be right back.
And then you'll have dinner ready for today too, Golda. And if you are following along on the handout, we will be on page 6 for the next recipe.
Yes. This is pretty classic, I'm going to tell you, for a use of kimchi, the kimchi pancake. And again, it's pretty easy to prepare. You do need rice flour and all-purpose flour. And I found another type of kimchi I thought I would try. This one is from Cleveland. The Cleveland Kitchen in Cleveland, Ohio. And I thought it was kind of neat because it comes in a bag. So I picked that up as well as the one in the jar. And what I'm going to do is take some kimchi. And I need a cup of the kimchi for this recipe. Okay, put that glove back on. Oh. And you're gonna, again, you want about a 1/4 cup of the kimchi juice to put in with the flours, the rice flour and the all-purpose flour, okay? I need, what's it say, a 1/2 cup. Let me see if I can get a 1/2 cup out of here. I've also, another thing I made was a kimchi Bloody Mary, where you take the juice from the kimchi and you can put it in with the tomato juice and make a Bloody Mary, and that's also really good.
That's really creative.
Very strong.
Yeah.
Very strong tasting, right? Okay. So that is squeezed pretty dry, and it's not quite full, so I'm going to add a little bit of water to it. Just a splash. Okay. And that is going to go into my mixing bowl. And then to that, I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of regular flour and a 1/4 cup of that rice flour.
Golda, do you think for a recipe like this, that if somebody wanted to substitute for a gluten-free flour that it would work, or is there not
I think
really?
it would.
Okay.
Yeah. And then keep in mind that the rice flour, that will be gluten-free.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is from Thailand, so this doesn't have gluten-free on it. So just kind of, you know, keep that in mind, that there was maybe any cross-contamination or anything like that that might have happened. So kind of keep that in mind. Okay, so, and then what I'm going to do, so I have the kimchi, the flours, and just a little bit of salt that I'm going to put in with that. And I'm going to stir that up. Let this sit. And I think this would go really good with eggs. And also the last recipe, the soba noodle salad you were talking about with tofu, and that would go really well. Eggs would go really well with that too, like a fried egg. Soft poached egg would go quite well with that.
Oh, definitely.
Okay. So I'm making the batter here, getting that stirred up. Looks good. Okay. And then what I want to do is I want to add in the green onion to that. And I need to chop up this kimchi. Okay. And put that in. And mix it up good. Okay, so what I want to do, this is the batter. I'm going to let that sit just for a minute or two before we go ahead and cook that. I'm going to go ahead and get my pan ready on the stove. And I'm just going to use olive oil to cook this with. Use a little oil in the pan. So I'm going to use olive oil. And the recipe calls to make 1 huge pancake, but I'm just going to make 2 small ones. Okay, get that pan going. And then it calls for a dipping sauce, right? And so with the dipping sauce, there's a lot of different dipping sauces that you can use, but the one I'm going to do calls for soy sauce. And I just wanted to bring this out too to show people. This is a soy-free soy sauce, and it's from Bragg's. It's a Bragg brand, and it's called coconut liquid aminos. I think it's a great substitute for soy sauce for anybody that has a soy allergy. And then this was just another brand. It's called Coconut Aminos, and the brand is Coconut Secret. So I'm going to use Coconut Secret, Coconut Aminos instead of soy sauce today for the sauce. This was a relatively new product for me to try over the past year. I'm not allergic to soy, but in teaching classes and working with people, it was something I wanted to try. And another product that I love, kind of a behind the scene ingredient, is fish sauce. Probably something that I'm not going to eat straight up, but mixed in with sauces and different foods, it's a wonderful flavor enhancer, and it provides such a wonderful umami taste. And just a funny story, it was November of 2020, And I was at my office and my interns brought me in a sample of food to try. And I tried it and I'm like, I can't taste this at all. So I was pretty sure I had COVID at that point. And I came home and I grabbed the fish sauce and I smelled it. I couldn't smell it. It was, you know, kind of the stinkiest thing I had in the house, right? I couldn't smell it. I couldn't taste it. So I was pretty sure that I had COVID. So, and I did. But anyway, I'll put a little bit of fish sauce in there with that. I already did. Okay. And a little bit of sesame oil I'm going to put in with that. It calls for just about a 1/4 teaspoon. I'm going to put in just a tad of water with that and a little bit of my rice wine vinegar.
Golda, I use coconut aminos at home as well. And I know different brands taste a little bit differently, but mine has more of like a sweeter taste, I guess, because it's like a coconut nectar base, if you will. Is yours more sweeter or is it saltier, kind of like soy sauce?
I thought it was just such a good substitute. I haven't tried it straight up for a while. This one has just a little bit more sodium than this one. This is only 90 milligrams of sodium per teaspoon. This is 140. So they're both very low in sodium. So not only are they soy-free, but they're also a great lower sodium substitute for soy sauce for somebody that's watching their sodium intake. Okay. All right. So our pan is hot. Our batter is looking good. And so I'm going to go ahead and make about 2 of these. Okay. Let's take this in the other room real quick.
Golda, speaking of tasting things or not being able to taste things, I don't know if you remember, but I remember when I was an intern there, you had this jar that you had never opened, and it was from another country and it had bugs in it. And we brought it to a school because we were doing something fun and cooking around the world with them and stuff like that. And you had brought it. And I just remember having this experience of popping open this can of bugs that you had brought and daring the kids to see if they would eat it, and none of them would eat it. And so they dared me to eat it, and I tried it, and it was one of the worst tasting things I had ever tasted. Thanks, Golda. I'll always have that memory with me.
And that would be a great topic for you to explore is the culinary aspect of insects.
It's supposed to be the next sustainable protein, you know, in terms of, you know, not running out of protein sources, but, you know, being a more sustainable source of protein. So I'm hoping there's better bug products out there than the one you had me try.
Those are looking really good. And I just have a plate here, a little rectangular plate, and I'm going to put the sauce in that little sauce.
Oh, we have a comment from Dixia. She says, I have to thank Golda for introducing me to the world of food and how to be adventurous and curious.
Aw.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Golda. I think you were, you're like a culinary encyclopedia and you always get us to try different things. So,
well, thank you.
Yeah.
And you look at you guys now, I mean, that in terms of being involved as a dietetic internship program director to, you know, witness you and Dixia and all the things you've accomplished, that's like the best thing in the world, is to be involved in somebody else's, you know, growth and development. So you guys are, you know, just awesome. 100%.
Thanks, Golda.
So. Okay. So I'm gonna give these just another minute, and then I'll go ahead and plate them up. Any questions? Can you think of anything else?
We have a comment from Steve. Not eating bugs. I'll leave that for the more adventurous eaters.
What was that?
Steve says, I'm not eating bugs. I'll leave that for the more adventurous eaters. Steve, I know, is also vegan, so, you know, that wouldn't be appropriate as well.
Okay. So I'm going to put the pancakes on the plate here. Okay. And I think that I want a little garnish. Let me see just real quick.
That looks so good, Golda. Oh my gosh.
I wish you could smell. It is really smells so good in here. And then I have to get a picture, of course, right?
Yes, that would be awesome. Did you just put some sesame seeds on there?
A little sesame seed, yeah.
And I guess while you're doing that, I'll kind of just mention to everyone that, you know, we are collecting donations for the Wholesome Food Fund. I don't know if you want to talk about that, Golda, and how that all got started, but I do want to say that I believe I remember us going down to, was it City Hall, and doing the proclamation for the Wholesome Food Fund? That was, I think that was us. Yeah.
Yes. Can I take a bite here real quick?
Yes, please do.
Right? Huh? Mm.
How is it, Golda?
It's very good.
Great.
Very good.
Yeah.
Let me try the pancake here.
It looks really good. I mean, that browned up really nice in the pan.
Mm. Very good. So the Wholesome Food Fund is a fund that's a pass-through fund at the Community Foundation of Central Illinois, and they keep our money, manage our money, and the money is used to do double value food stamp redemption at the Riverfront Market, and it's earmarked for the people that need the food, that have food stamps, to only purchase the fresh produce. There's other things like meat that one can buy at the market, but for the double value dollars, we really only want them to use that for fresh produce to, you know, help improve their diets. And we've been doing it for quite a few years, over 10 years now. And we, you know, it helps so many people to have access to the freshest, tastiest, best produce that we have to offer in Central Illinois. And it's all staffed by our dietetic interns that volunteer, you know, many, many hours each summer to help people at the market. And I am, you know, any money that's raised through the program will go right to that fund. And that money stays here in the area, in our community. The farmers that come here live, work, play, live here. So those dollars go right to them, to their pockets. And, you know, it's a win-win situation for everybody. So that's where the money's going to tonight.
Great. Thanks for that, Golda. Yeah, I even remember when we used to volunteer over the summers down at the Peoria Riverfront Market. You know, we would be making these really fun and simple, tasty recipes to hand out to people. And at the same time, you know, we had, you know, we were also helping out with the Double Up Food Bucks through the Wholesome Food Fund. So honestly, that was a really great memory for me, even though I'm not a morning person and I don't love waking up early to be at the farmer's market. It was honestly some of the best times that I had. So thank you, Golda, for, you know, bringing that to light for us, and also for, you know, us trying to raise money for a good cause here for the Wholesome Food Fund. So thank you.
And, you know, it's a pleasure to reconnect with you, Sylvia. And I hope this is just the first, and that we continue to talk and network. So, and it's great to see all the other people on the demo too. So
Yeah,
thank you,
absolutely.
thank you for your
Thank you.
efforts.
Thank you,
So.
Golda. Yeah, and thank you everyone for joining. You know, we hope that, you know, you'll jump on our website, share with others what we're doing. You know, we're trying to raise money for, you know, different organizations. You know, we do this every, you know, 1 to 2 months or so, kind of like whenever the chefs are free. I reach out to, you know, amazing people like Golda here, who are trying to, you know, not only teach people how to cook at home, but also, you know, have fun in the kitchen. And at the same time, you know, trying to do something good for other foundations and organizations that are doing amazing things. So yeah, Golda, I see you pulling out all the fun books off of your shelf.
I just want to kind of end with the references. Yeah. So this one is an incredible reference. It's the Kim Kimchi Cookbook. Love it, love it, love it. And it has the quick kimchis in here, as well as the more traditional ones that have shrimp and fresh oysters added to them. So this is a great one. The one by Sandor Katz that I really encourage you to look at, The Art of Fermentation. He takes you through hundreds and hundreds of years ago, how fermentation got started. He's got recipes for many different types of fermentations. Great cookbook. If you ever get a chance to hear him speak, I highly recommend it. It's on my bucket list to hear him. And then if you want to really take it to the next level, this is the Noma Guide to Fermentation. This is really a higher level of getting into fermentation, totally geeked out, and a lot of the things are challenging and you need special equipment, but really cool to look at. And I just want to put in a plug for this one as well. This is the one that I highly recommend, Kirsten Shockey. I've heard her speak several times. She's amazing, and this one is on how to make miso, and she has ones on the fiery ferments and one on how to make homemade vinegar. So great resources that I would recommend.
Great, thanks, Golda. And we have you know, some thank yous, and thanks for all the kimchi recipes. It all looks really delicious, so thank you. Yeah, I love it all. So thank you, Golda. And I know we're all just here to like love and support each other. You know, we're all connected, and food does a really great job of doing that and bringing communities together. So, you know, just wanted to remind you all that, you know, I'll continue to do these cooking lessons. I'm going to do a free one coming up in a few weeks. So Golda, you're obviously more than welcome to join as well if you want to pop on, but I'll continue raising money for the Wholesome Food Fund. And I know you're busy, but yeah, even if you want to just pop on to say hi, that'd be great too. But yes, I know it's probably getting close to your dinner time, so I don't want to hold you back from eating all that delicious food. So yeah, thank you again. Thank you, Golda. Thank you everybody for joining today. And hopefully I'll see you again soon. So Golda, if you have any last words, feel free to do to sign us off.
Yeah, just thank you for this opportunity and keep doing your amazing work. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Golda.